At long last. All right. Actually, I really hope my sound settings are correct. I forgot to check them. And figures. Oh, nuts. I am very sorry, folks. Why is this not working? Just a moment. I am now worst Windows update and I don't know how long. Okay, keeping up. Sound, working on sound settings right now. What the hell now? Very sorry, folks. Okay, I mean, right now I know the sound is coming in from the webcam, but I'm trying, damn it. Yeah, I know, chaos, but as I said, I did a Windows update this morning on my desktop. That lasted all of 2 minutes. This time, it's been more than half an hour since the Windows update started. And I'm still trying to get all of this to work correctly. It's not happening. All right. High definition audio, microphone. That's not what I'm looking for. Why is this thing not going? Let's try again. Okay. And again, I so apologize to everybody. This is quite frankly embarrassing. I've had everything ready since 5:30, and then the stupid Windows update had to happen. All right. Oh, we got it. I think we got it. Okay. All right. So if I'm figuring right, we should at last be talking on my mic here. Okay, at long last. Okay, finally. Whew. All right, obviously, the very first thing, my deepest apologies, everybody, for being so late tonight. I make a point of trying to start promptly at 8 o'clock, and I've been doing so for about the last 3 years, in fact. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, at 7:35 p.m., my laptop started doing a Windows update, and it took more than half an hour for the stupid thing to be finished. But at long last, yeah, I know I can't pull out my hair. I already did that, I'm afraid. Okay, finally. And with that, hi there, at last. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday, which, of course, is a Wednesday night and Wednesday day tradition that many that many cooking channels here on YouTube have been doing for the past several years. We do a cast iron video on Wednesday because it's fun and it gives us something to look forward to. And of course, I know folks here have been kind enough to show up here on my live every week for a cast iron video, and thank you very much for joining my YouTube channel. Especially thank you everybody for staying during this stupid delay, which I really hope will not happen again. But nonetheless, here we are, and as well here, welcome back to my kitchen, because as promised, we are going to be burning food tonight. Yeah, I know. This would hardly be the first time food has burned in this kitchen, would it? Except that this time we're doing it deliberately. So thank you and hello to everybody who has been here before and everybody who has been kind enough to join tonight and wait. Hello to Elsie's Cat and Rick Stumbow, Cynthia Wesley and Val's Black Cat's Rules. And hello, Thrift Queen Harvesting the Past. Hello. Thank you for wading through that little bit of chaos here. And hello as well, Poke Park 23, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And hello to Pat Z and so many others. Yes, my shirt here, of course, was a souvenir from Speedy Fest last weekend. I posted a video already about that little adventure, which was a lot of fun. That was the important thing, and I'm not kidding when I said I knew from the beginning I would not come anywhere close to winning the competition. I mean, especially because I had never cooked on one of those silly little grills before. um, I can. I hope not, Craig. Yeah, that's the funny thing is that what we're doing tonight, I don't expect there to be any smoke alarm, even though we're going to be having burnt food tonight. I think we should get down to that, and then I'll be able to chat some more. Because yes, indeed, as it noted, we are making Basque burnt cheesecake tonight. And not only that, this is a recipe I've never tried before. I'm trying this recipe from scratch, largely because three reasons. Number one, I've got this long bucket list of recipes I've been wanting to do. It's like I see this and I want to make this. I want to make this. And so I'm really trying to get my stuff together and actually buckle down and make this. And so that at least will give us plenty of content. Number two, it looks fantastic. Number three, this is apparently even easier than making a regular cheesecake. So, I mean, we're talking easy. And of course, that means I have to add cast iron to the mix. So, finally, let's see what we have here. All right, now I've even made sure, as I said, I did my best to prep my ingredients tonight, even to the point where I've had some blocks of cheesecake, and these have been out for about 3 hours, so they should be soft. I even have my eggs brought up to room temperature, believe it or not. So now that we've done that, in fact, I actually need to raise this a little bit so that we can get a decent view of the mixer. Yeah, even the mixer here has a little story, as folks here know. I'm glad to say I was able to get my mixer back from having it professionally cleaned. Because I did a terrible job attempting to clean it myself earlier this year. There we go, I think. In fact, let's even move this a little closer. There we go. Now we're doing pretty good. Okay, so one last thing. Scissors. Because you know these foil packets here for opening cheesecake, you know, I mean, while they say they can be torn open, it never seems to work that way. So let me quickly grab my shears and a spatula. And now at last, off we go. I've got 2 pounds of cheesecake here. In fact, the recipe calls for 1 kilogram of cheesecake, which is a little more than 2 pounds, but I'm sure we can live with that. Even though I know it's like the more cheesecake, the better. Let's see if we. Oh, hey, I got it. Hey, how about that? Let's see here. Now the real fun is trying to get this thing completely out. And hey, it worked with practically no sticking. So that's not a bad start. That's 1. Maybe it's because I let this thing come to room temperature. And here comes 2. Come on. I did it before. You know what they say, we did it before and we can do it again and we will do it again. So how did I do that? How did I do that? I'm not even sure. It seemed to just open right up too. All right, well, calm down. Oh, there it is. Hey, look at that. Come on. There it goes. Yes, that's 2. There we go. Be nice and gentle, and the majority of it comes out. Number 3. You know, I looked on Philadelphia Cream Cheese's website for some recipes involving cream cheese in case I didn't need all of this, although it turned out I did. And practically all of them were cheesecakes and desserts. It's as though really people use cream cheese for only one thing. Although I know people have made other things with cream cheese, even mac and cheese, for instance. There we go. That's 3. finally, number 4. All right, now I'm actually starting to get the hang of it. You know, if I worked with cheesecake every day, I'm sure I'd be able to do this in half the time at least. Especially since I just dropped it on the floor. Unopened, no, not to worry. There we go, got it. And the last one. And then once that's in, we get to have some fun. There we go. And I didn't even need to scrape it with a spatula. So we're actually doing better than I thought. Which means, oh, and by the way, I have indeed preheated the oven, especially with the delay. That at least won't be a problem. The oven, for the record, is heated to 410 degrees. So up we go, and away we go. Come on. There we go. All right. This makes a lovely sound, doesn't it? This hasn't changed. That's good. Okay. Now that next, we'll start working some cakes. But yeah, I even remembered to bring my eggs up to room temperature. How about that? Okay. In fact, come on, do this right. Actually, okay, I'm not going to be that stupid. Namely, I'm going to have to break my eggs into the bowl first. Hey, there's a concept for you. Oh, I think I've learned a few things. 1, 2, because you don't want shell in your cheesecake, do you? 3, and yeah, this thing calls for 7 eggs, by the way. That's a lot of eggs. However, at least the price of eggs have gone down again, thank goodness. Namely that a dozen eggs was only not $1.99 at Price Chopper today. So, yeah, eggs are not, fortunately, worth their weight in gold anymore, thank goodness. So, yeah, things have improved at least in some ways. 6 and 7. Come on. There we go. Managed to get all 7 of them in there without any shell. So that's not bad. Means back to the mixer. I'll move this over a little bit for you. There we go. Because I'm sure you folks want to see the action. Okay. I miss homemade bread. Yeah. Okay, and now, once again, we do this one at a time. Whoops, well, maybe 2 at a time. 2. 3. In fact, I might even be able to bring it up a little bit. 4. 6. Again. And 7. Yeah, I thought of using the dough hook, but I'm not sure if it would actually turn out right, because there's going to be a fair amount of liquid added to this. All right, however, now that we've done that, now we mix in our sugar. Here, I should probably turn it down again, because I don't want sugar blowing all over the place. The end result here is going to be a very runny batter. This is not going to be a cake batter, that's for sure. And I just realized I actually did make one mistake. I forgot to grease the pan and put in the parchment paper, so that's going to have to happen after this. Oh well. Alright, now on this. Add, it only says about a tablespoon of flour, which is not very much. And then finally, after all that, in our cream. I actually did prepare tonight. I even pre-measured my ingredients. Because this is heavy cream, there we go. And while we're going, so far so good. In fact, I'm probably going to mix it a little bit more in a couple of minutes because, as I said, I did make a mistake. I forgot to prepare the pan, which means we're going to have to do that as quickly as possible, which means we get to put another view here. And that means, finally, this is what you've been waiting for, folks. Here's some cast iron to look at. Specifically, this, in fact, is an unmarked Wagner chicken fryer. I actually debated on which kind of cast iron to use for this. And then I realized, a spring-form pan is supposed to be deep. And so because of that, I decided that I might as well use a deep skillet. And so as a result, I brought out the Wagner chicken fryer. In fact, I was on Mudbrooker's Cast Iron Live, as part of the audience last night, and he mentioned specifically the Wagner chicken fryer with the round handle. And here it is right here, as you can see. This one is, in fact, does have a rounded bottom. So I would estimate this is probably from about the 1940s or so. Let me finish greasing this up here as quickly as I can. Then I will show you the bottom, and then we will get on to the parchment paper, because yes, this is definitely baked in parchment paper. This is about the complete opposite from your standard cheesecake. See, there isn't even a crust. We're not even doing a cookie or graham cracker crust or anything. All it is we're simply going to bake it in the pan as is. And again, the bottom of this chicken fryer is completely blank. There's absolutely no markings at all on the bottom. And we would really only recognize this only because cast iron historians know about the rounded handle here of the Wagner chicken fryer. So that's how we know this is a Wagner. And I estimated it to be 1940s, largely because it has the rounded bottom and not no heat ring on the bottom, no angled bottom. So that's why I'm estimating it to be about that old. All right, from here, there we are. I even remembered to pre-cut a piece of parchment paper. So let's get this thing in as best as we can. Okay, I wonder if this is why a lot of these recipes say to use 2 pieces of parchment paper, because it seems to be a little shallow on one side. Maybe. All right, do this. All right, well then, based on that, I guess we will have to go with what they say and use 2 pieces of parchment paper. So let me put a little bit more grease onto here. The reason for the grease is so that it will adhere, not to the cheesecake, but rather for the parchment paper to adhere to the pan, because it is going to bake and it will still make it easy to remove. That's the nice thing about baking with parchment paper. There we go. Well, anyway, I just learned a lesson as to why a number of these recipes use 2 pieces of parchment paper instead of 1. Come on. Oh, man. Okay. In fact, looks like a little bit more grease is going to be needed here. There we go. And so this is sticking very nicely to the pan itself. So now that we've done that, let's number 2. Oh yeah, much better. This one will go more to this side. There we go. Now it's managing a little better. Come on, you know what? All right, one of these days I'll get past the parchment paper and actually put the filling on. However, I think we have it at this point. There we go. At last. Yeah, I do not want to get in there. Ah, come on. Now it's starting to. Okay, now I think it's settling down nicely. Phew, at last. Okay, which means a little bit more, just a little bit more mixing. Not too much. It is a big cheesecake, yes. The standard recipe, in fact, calls for a 10-inch springform pan, but there aren't very many of those around. Most people have the usual 9-inch pan. So that again was the reason why I decided to use this chicken fryer here, because I want to be sure there is that this doesn't overflow. And with that, here it comes. And it goes. Where did I put that spatula? Here it is, because it looks like we've got a fair amount here yet. Boy, in fact, I'm not even sure if I mixed it enough. I mean, if I've got this much leftover cream cheese, then maybe I might be in trouble. Okay, based on that, I think I'm in trouble because I believe the batter is supposed to be more smooth than this. Joy. All right. Well, no need to panic. That's all we can do is mix it together a little bit more. Yeah, always something, isn't it? All right. Well, that means when in doubt, there we go. Time to break out the whisk. Let's take care of all of this. And this is the fun part about doing this live, because you never see this on those edited videos, do you? Nonetheless, actually, this doesn't seem too hard, because obviously I don't want to tear the paper, but still, I'd say it's actually blending in all right. On the whole, I don't think it's doing that badly. Okay. But at this moment, I am quite glad I chose the chicken fry, because as you can see, this is actually raised up very nicely. And if I had used a regular 10-inch skillet for this, it definitely would have overflowed. So note to self, or if anybody else wants to try doing this in cast iron, you definitely should use maybe a Dutch oven, which I probably could have used, or this chicken fryer like we're doing here. There we go. This actually doesn't look too bad. And really, that's pretty much it. Okay, so we've got this, and now from here, all we really need to do is get it into the oven. So, don't worry, there is a lot more left to go on this show, folks, not to worry. In fact, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's largely because I chose, well, a pretty easy recipe. Don't mind this. This is the extension cord for the mixer. That's why it's there. So, over we go. And in we go. It's going on to the middle rack, and I have the oven at 410 degrees Fahrenheit. Where I have seen these recipes range anywhere from 35 minutes to 60 minutes. I suspect, especially since we have all of that and the pan and the cast iron pan has to heat up, this is probably going to have to go for 60 minutes, I suspect. Well, as long as I can get this thing out of the oven tonight, then I'd say we'll be doing pretty good. However, I do have something else planned as well. To go onto this cheesecake, I was thinking of doing a caramel sauce. However, nonetheless, okay, now that we've done that part, we get that. After I put this, yeah, that's right, put the lid on this Crisco here. Now, all right, hello as well, George Lewis. Cat's name is Muffin, and my wife named her. Okay, adjust the beaters on the KitchenAid. So the beaters were actually, yeah, I do agree in that I probably should have adjusted that. But I have made a couple of things already in this, and I'm surprised as well that it didn't seem to reach the bottom of the bowl. Nonetheless, okay, Cynthia, that's the name of the vermin that's always trying to get into the chicken coop. Okay, so far so good. All right, let's step back now. Okay, anyway. But once again, thank you for the delay there, folks. Nonetheless, this as I said, this cheesecake is going to be in the oven for about the next hour or so, which is why the next thing we need to do at this point is the reason why everybody is here, of course, and that is let's take a look at some cast iron. As I mentioned already, I have I'm going to be doing a caramel sauce as well to go onto this cheesecake. And for that, I have brought out another piece. I have not yet heated this up on the stovetop. This is one that I've restored only recently. And that is, in fact, a Birmingham Stove and Range Lady Best series saucepan, quite frankly. Yeah, because this is one of two pieces from the Lady Best series that I've acquired only recently. One of them, in fact, was a gift, which I was not asking for, from a member of this channel, and thank you very much for that. I'm not asking for donations, folks, nonetheless, but a couple of people kind of insisted. But that one was a 6-inch skillet. This one, on the other hand, is a 1-quart saucepan, and I've actually gotten a fair amount of use out of this already. I've found already a 1-quart cast iron saucepan so far has I've gotten quite a bit of use to it, because it's of course it's a great butter melter. I prepared sauces in this pan as well, and that's what I mentioned as well. I'm going to be making a caramel sauce in this pan. Now, you notice the wooden handle on this in a number of ways. This here does resemble those Taiwan-made saucepans that we see all over the place. You know, the ones from Finger Hut, and we can find them typically at flea markets and yard sales and thrift stores and all the like. And a lot of people normally pass them up because, well, they're made in Asia. but there's actually no reason to pass them up because, as I said, having a cast iron saucepan is definitely very useful, and it is certainly something that I would indeed recommend. In fact, I've been looking through the thrift stores, but I haven't looked hard enough to find a proper lid to fit on this. I'm certain that I can find a glass lid to fit on this with very little difficulty. Anyway, as I mentioned, this was from the Lady Best series. Birmingham Stove and Range, of course, was well known, for their earlier Red Mountain pans, and then in the 1950s they switched over to the Century Cookware series, which they did produce all the way up to the end of the company in 1992. But other than that, it's also known that in 1976, for the United States bicentennial, the 200th birthday of the United States, they produced a special series of cast iron pans, which they called Lady Bess. And these ones had wooden handles here. The ironic thing, or maybe might even call it poor marketing, if you want to be absolutely honest, is that they produced them with this kind of a design, and especially with the wooden handles, because they wanted to give it more of a vintage or rustic or early American look. Of course, the interesting thing about that is that these pans here are in fact not compatible with any lids or really any other pans from the early days of any cast iron foundry, whether it was Birmingham Stove and Range or otherwise. I mean, these were actually, as you can see here, the number 6 on this particular pan here indicates that this is 6 inches in width, which is very different and much smaller than a typical number 6 size cast iron pan or skillet or Dutch oven. So, which I'm sure the irony was unintended, but nonetheless, this is still a nice looking piece of cast iron. And so, pretty much like any other piece of vintage cast iron, there are quite a few collectors out there who do indeed go out of their way to find these pieces. And I have not been able to find many of these in the wild, as opposed to BSR pans that are all over the place. The Lady Best series has been pretty hard to find. I mean, I could certainly. I'm glad to own these 2 pieces, though, nonetheless. And yeah, like Val's Black Cat Rule says, hey, honey, cheesecake. No, I don't think there's honey in this, actually. The only pot I have is Taiwan, nice thick bottom, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that either. Those Taiwan-made cast iron saucepans, they work just fine in the kitchen, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to use one of them. In fact, I had 2 or 3 of them several years back, and then I ended up giving them away. You're going to be interested to see if your chicken fryer rusts under the parchment paper. I made meatloaf in 2 well-seasoned loaf pans lined with parchment paper, and both rusted. Well, that's interesting. Okay, I guess we can only see what happens then when this comes out of the oven. How ironic that cast iron has irony. Shit. Well, as I said, I will examine this chicken fryer once the cake comes out, especially since the other thing is that once the cake comes out, I'm going to have to cool it down to room temperature. And then here's the other thing. I'm going to have to put it in the refrigerator. And here's something of a no-no that a lot of people say. Don't put cast iron in the refrigerator because all the humidity in the refrigerator will cause it to rust. I've actually done that, in fact, with cheesecake before. I made cheesecake in my modern Stargazer cast iron skillet, and there's even a video of that on my channel. And quite frankly, I did indeed put the entire pan into the refrigerator overnight, and I have to say it did not rust. So it might be, I guess they say it's because of the humidity in the refrigerator more than anything else. So granted, here it is the middle of summer, so there is more humidity. Between that and what Papa Dan said, I guess I will have to see what happens after we are done making this cheesecake. All right, I have the lids for the lids too. Those bottoms are hard to find. Cheesecake without crust would have fewer carbs. Well, there is that, yes, since as you can see, this is entirely just the cheesecake filling. And the cheesecake filling is going to caramelize under all that heat, or at least I certainly hope it will. In fact, I've seen a couple of recipes that suggest in like maybe the last 15 minutes or so, they even turn the temperature up. Right now, the temperature in my oven is set to 410 degrees, and I might turn it up to about 425 degrees. Probably when the time reaches about maybe 9:30 or so here tonight. You greased it. I doubt it will rust. Well, there is certainly that too. All right. Refrigeration removes humidity. Cast iron in the fridge can crack it. I don't think so. The thermal shock is not that extreme. If you were to take a like 300 or 400 degree cast iron pan and then put it in the freezer with all the ice and everything, I suppose there is the possibility it could crack that way. But as I said, I'm going to let this cool to room temperature first, and then which may take a couple of hours or so, and then after that I will put it in the refrigerator. So I can safely say there's really no chance that this thing will crack. I'll be more concerned, I think, about the rust, as you noted. So no, that's what my glass lids Pyrex are for, no cast iron. I seldom eat the graham cracker crust. The only problems I have had in the fridge is on the lid. Well, as I said, we will see what happens, I guess, by tomorrow. But nonetheless, you definitely prefer cheesecake without crust. Um, has anybody made a cheesecake just without the crust? I mean, other than this burnt cheesecake. The thing about this burnt cheesecake, of course, is that you still get a crust, just enough to hold the cheesecake together. I mean, that's different, of course, from a graham cracker crust. Most just like the filling anyway. So yeah, I mean that must be why this particular brand of cheesecake has become so popular. It's only become popular recently. I guess it's because I mean even though people have been making cheesecakes and cheesecakes have been getting cracks in them since the beginning. I guess it was only recently that anybody ever tried eating a burned cheesecake, and I guess they definitely liked the results. So I bought a cast iron skillet in the Goodwill store in the winter, and it popped when it went outside the store. Really, that I'm maybe that one might have been cracked, perhaps even when you bought it in the store, perhaps. That's odd, and if I'd had an opportunity to examine it, I would have liked to have done so, because now I can't say I've heard of that one happening. Of course, how cold was it outside anyway? Was it one of those Midwestern winters where it can get to 20 degrees below zero? So that might very well have something to do with it. Use a bain marie, no cracks. Well, the thing with this is this particular recipe, apparently it is supposed to crack. You are not, I mean, we don't worry about the cracks. It's all part of the look of it. So that's actually all good news. Uh, Getting a New York style cheesecake without cracks, that actually, as it turned out, the bain marie, really, the water bath was definitely the way to go there, because when I made my cheesecake video, and I do have a cheesecake video on my channel, that was my third attempt at a cheesecake. My first one, I overfilled the pan, and really, even though, yeah, and it didn't even solidify properly. My second cheesecake did solidify, but it was definitely cracked all over the place. Then I used the water bath, and it did indeed turned out, well, I can't say perfect, but it was a magnificent looking cheesecake with a wonderfully smooth top, and I was very proud of it. And I'm glad to be able to use it in that video too. So, Louis is in the house. Yes, hello, Louis J. And Mark Sieber, use a different cookie like Oreo or Bill's wafers instead of the graham crackers. That's true. And in fact, in my video, I did make that. I did use Oreo cookies, and I certainly liked the result, as well as everybody else who ate it. So it's been a couple of years, in fact, since that. Do you know where the burnt cheesecake started? I hadn't heard of it before. Well, because I love cheesecake and I do make a lot of dessert recipes. Well, thank you very much. They call this Basque with Basque, which is an area of Spain. So I think it's safe to say that it was in Basque that this particular cheesecake fad started. And that kind of makes sense as well when you consider that Spain and Spanish desserts are also where we have seen flan. And anybody who has flan, who's had flan, should probably think that this Basque burnt cheesecake looks kind of familiar because just that you've got a custardy, a custardy mound of it that is in fact burnt on top, and it has a bitter top. And so that's exactly what we're doing with this burnt cheesecake. So I don't know the exact history, but it seems likely that someone probably decided to try the flan method on cheesecake batter, and this is the result. And it definitely became one of those fads, food fads that took off. So now we're seeing it all over the place. But yes, I discovered it as well just by browsing around on YouTube, and I love trying new things. So when I saw this went on to my bucket list of things I have to try one of these days. And so here we are now, because like I said, I am doing my best to try to actually work through this long list of recipes that I need to try. I mean, you know how it is. We all see this wonderful looking viral video of some kind of food that makes our mouths water, and then we say, I've got to make this, and then we never do. Well, I'm doing my best to be the exception to the rule and actually make it. And we can only see how it all turns out. I thought flan was a Latin American dessert. You probably know more than I do. I'm definitely not saying I am a real expert on history, but nonetheless, it might very well be Latin American, which means it may be more Portuguese, I suppose, in origin than Spain, perhaps. I guess that's one of these things we're going to have to look up on our friend Google here. Okay, at least, yeah, we have comment on. Hi, Thomas. You know what? Let me see if there's been anything happening in the oven already. Its points. See what we have here so far, if anything. So far, there does not seem to have been much of a change yet. I guess all we can do is just keep on waiting. If I don't see any kind of burning or anything like that within the next half hour or so, maybe I will. Oops, sorry about that. Maybe I will turn up the temperature. But again, this has only been in the oven for a few minutes. Gotta have patience. That's one thing I have learned, and yet I still have trouble applying. When it comes to cooking, and especially baking, patience is definitely a virtue. Speaking of that, yeah, flan is possible from Rollman's as well. If you do a lot of cooking videos, you see things you do not get to read the lot in. Yes, that's, I guess, as I said, that's why not many people seem to be doing these live cooking videos on a regular basis. And you can certainly understand why when you see all the chaos that happens on my channel. Speaking of chaos, you know what? Let's get back over to the stove here. And let's take another look here at this BSNR 1 quart saucepan here as we get started. Let's turn on my stove, and yay for a gas stove. Yeah, give me a second as well. Okay, there we are. Now, fortunately, I even measured out my ingredients for this. So I'm doing pretty good here. For starters, at this point, for a caramel, all I need are about 6 tablespoons of water. And then from there, we've got about 1 cup of sugar. Okay, now from here, let's just simply stir it a little bit, but we are not even really going to have to stir this, not until this thing starts boiling here. So just enough to mix it all in. I think I even need to turn the heat up a little bit because I do want to bring this to a boil. And then after it boils, as you probably know, oh yeah, that's right. I better get my other ingredient out of the fridge right now, and that would be just about a cup of cream. There we are. So we got 1 cup of heavy cream here. And to this, oh yeah, no, actually a little bit more than a cup of cream. It's like, what do they measure? About 200 milliliters or something like that. And to this, I need to mix in some vanilla extract. Here we go. It's probably enough. Yeah, because apparently you don't want to add cold cream to a, to this when that thing is boiling hot. So right now I'm just mixing in the vanilla. And at this point, all we need to do is wait for this to start boiling. Okay. While we're waiting, here's another look here at the Lady Best cast iron pan as well. While we mention this here, paying close attention, Debbie, go do a rubber cone and put peanut butter in it. Okay. Yes, a Lady Best. Yes, that's true. As I said, this is a Lady Best saucepan. The Lady Best 6-inch skillet was a gift, as I mentioned, from a person on this channel. In fact, I might as well get that and just bring it out just as a comparison because this, as I said, one gentleman was kind enough to send this pan to me, and this, in fact, is the 6-inch skillet, which again it says number 6, although this one says skillet and the other one doesn't because it's a saucepan. But this is from the late 1970s. 1976 to 1980, in fact, from BSR. It has a made in USA mark and it has a mold ID number as well. And yeah, this thing is only 6 inches in diameter. It's even maybe a tad bit smaller than your typical number 3 size cast iron pan. This one, on the other hand, has a darker handle because this handle is definitely polished and varnished, whereas this one was in much poorer condition. I did my best to restore the handle on this, although I decided, happens every time, I decided not to like paint the handle or stain it or anything like that, and all I did was just use linseed oil to restore this handle here. And so as a result, it has a lighter color because of that. The leg just came off my tripod. There we go. But yes, this is indeed from the Lady Best series. So far, this is the only other pan I have of the Lady Best series from DSLR, at least so far. Who knows? I might be lucky enough to come across another one of these days. I've heard the Lady Best series being pretty hard to come by. I could certainly say that, yes, because as I mentioned, I have yet to find one of those in the wild. In both instances here, the saucepan I actually managed to score off of eBay, whereas, as I said, that number 6 skillet was kind enough to be a gift from somebody, from one of the persons on this channel here, in fact. Whereas, yes, I have been keeping an eye out for Lady Best pans in the wild, and I have yet to find them. All I have ever found so far are those cast iron pans from Taiwan with wooden handles on them. And as I said, there's really nothing wrong with those pans either. And if anybody has any of those Taiwan-made saucepans in your kitchen, don't hesitate to use it. Is this really all? Okay. So I guess my tripod isn't going to get any closer than that. So let's move down. There we go. I'm trying to get as good a view as possible here. Looks like this is just starting to boil at this point. So, of course, what I have to do is wait for this to actually get to more of a golden color here. At which point, then we'll be ready to mix in our cream. I wondered how many of those wood handle pans I passed over because I thought they were Chinese. Well, all I can say is don't worry about it because it happened in the past, and we certainly can't change that. And well, all we can do is if you see one of those in the wild, just take a look and give it a look-see. But as with any pan, I mean, really part of the question is whether or not you would have any use for it. I mean, as again, even though I do kind of go out of my way to collect BS&R pans, as you can see, I'm still doing my best to be able to use this saucepan here. And indeed, as I said, I've already gotten a fair amount of use out of it, even though I've only had it for a short period of time. So, which is what I said earlier, that owning one of these cast iron saucepans I find is to be very useful. So. We rarely see any lady best in the wild. Yes, exactly. Watco Danish oil. Haven't been out only when I have to do very hot and our vehicle wouldn't start. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Debbie. Any difference using electric or gas range stoves? I used an electric stove for 12 years before I finally moved here to my new home, and I've been using a gas stove for the past years. Yes, there is a difference. I find that the gas stove heats up the cast iron much faster than an electric stove. I mean, it's I can't say it's instant, but but there is definitely a noticeable difference, and it gets this thing blazing hot really fast. On the other hand, my understanding is that it is still possible to warp a cast iron pan even on a gas stove, but it's not as easy to do as it is to do on an electric stove. I mean, I learned the hard way on an electric stove that you should never, and I mean never, heat up your cast iron on an electric stove more than about maybe 3/4 of the way. Maybe up to 80% at the absolute maximum, and then only occasionally, because when you heat up an electric coil stove, the heater, the coil itself can get up to something like 1100 to 1200 degrees, and that is the danger zone to actually affect the iron and cause it to warp. I have indeed warped a couple of my cast iron pans. In fact, my Lodge 14-inch wok is a spinner because when I was first learning to cook in cast iron in that wok, I ended up warping that Lodge wok. So I've been told that you can still warp a cast iron pan if you were to forget and leave the heat on for like several hours on a gas stove. It would completely burn off the seasoning as well. But I understand then it might actually cause warping, but it's definitely not as easy to do. UJ Cast Iron Cooking, very well said. Well, thank you. Had to have a neighbor help us home. Oh, okay. Yeah, chewing on strangers. Yeah. Congratulations on Lady Best. Oh, yes. Somebody else acquired a Lady Best pan. Definitely. Congratulations on that. I broke my mom's 6-inch Griswold by forgetting it when drying it. Ouch. Did it crack? Was that the reason why? I rarely see Lady Best even on Goodwill. Yes, BS&R was indeed starting to have some money problems. Even though the 1970s were started out as a banner golden era times for BS&R. until the energy crisis finally passed and the market for wood stoves crashed. That was when BSR started to get into real serious problems. But the Lady Best series in particular, they made they did produce them for the is this? Yeah, no, that's right. They did produce the Lady Best series, especially for the United States bicentennial, and I would have to say they did not mass produce them by the thousands, the way they've been doing with their regular skillets for several decades or so. So as a result, the number of pans produced by BSNR in the Lady Best series is far smaller than what you would see from from their Century Cookware or Red Mountain series. In fact, yeah, that's why again you can. I think I can turn this down now. In fact, there we go. I'll turn this down a little bit. You can really find these things I mean, you can find BSR pans pretty much anywhere. But yes, I also have not yet seen a BSNR Lady Best series best skillet in the wild. I haven't even seen it in antique stores or antique malls or the like. So that's why I ended up scoring this one off of eBay. So I'm sure I probably paid more than I should have, but on the other hand, I feel like I've gotten some use out of it. They make lead testing kits. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, lead testing is interesting because, as I mentioned as well, I only found out about a week or so ago that the popular 3M lead test seems to have been discontinued. I'm not sure if it's permanent or temporary, but they've completely taken it off their website. Even the Home Depot and Lowe's hardware website show the 3M lead testing kit is out of stock, and they don't know when it's going to be restocked. So because of that, about a week or so ago, I actually had to go with a different lead test. And while that lead test, as far as I could tell, was accurate, boy, was that thing cheaply made. Yeah, all that came with that, I paid $8 for that lead test. It's there. I have a video of that, the Pro Lab surface lead test, and all that came with that was two tiny little, barely postage stamp size strips of paper that had been chemically treated. That was literally it. Oh, it came as well with an empty, cheap plastic eyedropper for adding water to it. That's it. There was practically nothing there. And while I was able to do lead testing with it, I mean, I would hardly say that is enough really to use in a manner that we could use the 3M lead test for. So because that thing was so cheaply made, I really don't feel like I could honestly recommend that Pro Lab lead test. As I said, the video is there on my channel. So you can take a look at it in a little bit more depth. So, do you own the S series? As a matter of fact, I do have two pans from the S series. Yes. I'm keeping an eye on this as well because I want to see if and when the stuff starts to change color. Looking at it right now, no, we're still pretty much glossy. This thing has not yet started changing color, so I think we're still doing good. Oh, in fact, yeah, that's right. One other way to tell is by checking the temperature. If you, I understand if I change this to Celsius. Oops, what did I do? Oh, yeah, I hold it in. That's what I do. Why does this thing not working? I'm still at Fahrenheit. Hold it in. There we go. Now we're at Celsius. So apparently what we need to do is to heat this thing up to about 175 degrees Celsius. So we are only at about 105 degrees Celsius right now, which 106. So while the temperature is climbing, we definitely still have a ways to go on this. Yeah, that's why I like keeping track of the temperature of these things. It's definitely more accurate. Okay. And since you had asked about the S pull one out right now. Here it is. Yeah, you can hear it as well. It's like picking a key. Oh, I left it in the hall closet. No, don't go in there. But what we have right here, in fact, is a 3S cast iron skillet from Birmingham Stove and Range. And the interesting thing about this is this has this unusual small typewriter style font on it. I was surprised to find this, but it's definitely from the S series of BSNR. I'm thinking this must be maybe later on in their S series, possibly like maybe the 1940s or so, because all of the other S series pans I'd seen seem to all have handwritten styles on them. But nonetheless, this is actually slightly bigger, as you can see, than the 6-inch diameter of this so-called number 6 size saucepan here. But yes, this is in fact the BSNR S series. The other thing, interesting thing about this is look at this handle hole here with these little gouges in here and the very poor shaping. It's almost as if somebody must have tried using some kind of a drill bit or something on it and just didn't do a very good job of it. But so nonetheless, yes, this is the S series. You know, the S series, I heard they were a bit smaller. Yes, they are, in fact. What I should have done, in fact, was dig out a regular BSNR number 3 skillet because I have plenty of them. So let's do that right now. Here we go. This is something that I think a lot of folks have seen. A typical Red Mountain series, number 3 from BSNR. And whoops, just bumped the camera there. And this is, of course, about 6.5 inches in size. And here is the 3S pan. And the 3S pan, in fact, does fit inside, not exactly that well, because it is, in fact, very, very slightly smaller in size than the number 3 pan. I would turn these around, in fact, it doesn't even, the 3 pan doesn't even fit in the 3S. Whereas, on the other hand, the 3S fits with room to spare into the 3. So, yes, it is definitely smaller. Also, maybe a little bit better manufactured as well. Yeah, the S series was really discovered by the internet. If BSNR historians were not here on the internet, it's likely that nobody would have even known about the S series. Let's take another look at this and see what we've got now. We are now at this point. We're still at about, really, it doesn't seem to have gone up much. Still, it says about 107. All right, maybe I can even turn the temperature, turn the gas up very, very slightly, because I definitely want this thing to, as I said, we've got to heat this thing to like about 175 yet. So this, oh man, on the other hand, I can definitely feel this heat on my hand, that's for sure. Let me try doing this right. 105, 106, 107. Yeah, so far the temperature has not really gone up. So, and I, of course, don't want to touch the bottom of the pan either. But now that I've raised the temperature a little bit, I'm hoping that certainly helps. On the other hand, maybe as well, when as the liquid, that water evaporates, that might certainly help raise the temperature as well. So, Mark Sieber, I find BSNR Century and Red Mountain often here in Dead Center, Pennsylvania. Cornbread sticks and pans also. Yes, indeed. I was getting disgusted over them being the only find. Now I look at them and go, dang. Check the cheesecake. Oh, yeah, good point. Thank you very much. Check the cheesecake. I'm not worried about the cheesecake becoming burned yet, but let's see what it looks like. There we go. It's definitely rising, I'll say that much. I'm trying to get a good view for you folks, but I would say it is definitely rising there. So we are, in fact, starting to make some progress. So things actually are looking pretty good there. And yes, I'm definitely saying that if you want to make this in cast iron, don't use a typical skillet. I use a chicken fryer here, or use a Dutch oven. So far, so good. But thank you very much for the reminder as well. I mentioned before, by about 9:30 or so, I'm going to, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Yes, it does. But on the other hand, there is a lot of sugar in this. So this isn't just plain water. It's water plus sugar. And that is what's really driving up the temperature. Anybody who regularly makes candy, you know very well this gets really, really hot. And in fact, once I mix the cream into this, I'm going to have to be careful not to give myself a steam burn. A good friend owned 2 of the 3S pans. He never found 5S or 7S, and he is a very good hunter. Well, now that you mentioned that, let me go dig into my collection one last time to see if I can find what I'm. This one. Let me turn on the light here. You know you have cast iron if you can go to your cast iron collection in the dark and pull out the can you're looking for. Because here's another one that I'd like to show off, because this is in fact a 7S from the S series. Yeah, and I know it has a B on it as well. Most people think this is just a mold number, like there was an A or a B or a C. But this is definitely a 7S. And yes, this is in fact smaller than a BSNR number 7. In fact, it's the same size as a number 6, which is actually a rare size for BSNR, and I have not been able to acquire one of those yet. So, boiled sugar equals candy napalm. Yes, exactly. That's why I'm trying to be careful here. In fact, even though it's only been a couple of minutes, I'm looking to see what happens now if I check the temperature of this thing. Because now we're at 104, 106, 107, 8, 9. So, the temperature's climbed a couple of degrees. I'd say at this point, I can only hope that this thing actually does better. Because it's, as I said, I just have to have patience more than anything else. Because, on the other hand, there's definitely no sign of any burning here. And I don't think this thing has changed color yet either. If we take a look. If I look in the light here, I'd say maybe it might be getting more towards that amber color that we're supposed to be getting. Nonetheless, we definitely have a ways to go, because this is definitely not in any way yet approaching what you might want for caramel. And once again, this thing came off here. I'm going to have to super glue this tripod. Oh, damn it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to super glue this tripod. There we go. Okay. That's why I didn't get off into the S series. My nerves bad, my patience is horrible, my age is too old. I passed on the S series. I can't say that I blame you. It wasn't until I collected the Red Mountain that I understood that BSNR was popular. But yes, there is definitely a difference in quality between Red Mountain and Century series. Now, the Century series is excellent. Much like modern day Lodge, there are some Century pans out there that have something of a rough surface. There are some Century pans out there that have really nice milled surfaces. On the other hand, the Red Mountain series in general, most of them are very wonderfully smooth, both on the inside and the outside. So there is definitely a difference here. And quite often, you can find a BSNR Red Mountain at a relatively inexpensive price, too. Because even though they are becoming more well-known, there are still a lot of vendors out there who still don't know what they have yet. Put some cinnamon oil in and make hard candy. Celine, I got on the clothes. I was able to keep it. Okay, I love old Red Mountain with the large pour spouts. And that's one reason why as well, I have mentioned recently that I'm doing my best to keep an eye out for a BSNR Red Mountain number 12 size Dutch oven. I don't know if I'll ever be lucky enough to find one, but, well, that's why they call it a treasure hunt. But as it is, where did it go? Yeah, that's right. The number 7 size. This I have used this several times as well. And in fact, what I should do, and what I should actually do, is back up a little bit. Oh, come on, hold on. This thing keeps coming off my leg on my tripod here. Just one moment. I definitely need to glue this. Anyway, once we're doing that, let me dig out yet another piece from my collection here. This is one I've been using quite a lot of lately. Okay, here we go. Now, from early BSNR, here on the other hand is a number 7 Red Mountain, and this has rapidly become one of my favorite kitchen users as well. I call this pan lightning, and it is in fact a number 7 BSNR Red Mountain, and it's got these interesting casting flaws on it that look like cracks, but they are not cracks. If you look at it very closely, you can definitely see they're just casting flaws. And more importantly, the surface of this pan does not have any cracks on it at all. So yeah, that's one reason why I call this pan lightning. That, plus the fact that this thing seems to cook food at a lightning fast. So this is, as I said, has rapidly become one of my favorite kitchen users. On the other hand, here is that 7S. And there is a considerable size difference between the two. I mean, you can see here, even though this is a 7S and this is a 7, I mean, the difference in size here is enormous. So that's why I can definitely say this is, in fact, from the S series. BSNR made the S series, as we understood, to be compatible with the pans from a competitor. That competitor was not Lodge Cast Iron. I don't think they've been able to identify who they were competing with, but they made those pans especially to be compatible with a competitor. So, because that's how it goes. All right, what do we got with the temperature now, I wonder? Okay, see what is coming next. 98, 104, 107, 109, 111, 12, 13, 14. Oh boy, well, 15. Well, it is rising, but it's rising very slowly. So I got this from a YouTube video which claimed they could have this caramel done in 8 minutes. Well, I can definitely say that either maybe I should put the heat up a little bit more, or I'm not sure what they're talking about, because remember, we're using cast iron here, and this should be able to heat this thing up like nobody's business. So I really don't see how they say that I could get this caramel done in 8 minutes. Let the treasures come to me. Be aware that you're around cast iron, but don't focus on one thing. Look at the big picture, the wheat, the chaff, and the wheat. Yes, exactly. That, of course, is the thing about the cast iron treasure hunt in general, in that, of course, you have to have a lot of patience. You cannot go out expecting to find anything, because if you do, you'll almost inevitably be disappointed. And with just about everybody, your biggest find is almost always when you least expect it. You will certainly at some point or another, it could be tomorrow, it could be years from now, though I hope it's not, you could suddenly stumble across that incredible find that really is like, you feel like if you walk away from this deal, you're going to be kicking yourself for the rest of your life. But of course, that's one reason why we go to antique malls and we go to places like Brimfield and because we feel that we're much more likely to make that incredible score there. And I guess in a way that can be true too, because some of my greatest finds, in fact, I did find Brimfield. It was at Brimfield, for instance, that I found a vintage cast iron cake pan for $20. It was at Brimfield that I found my 15-gallon cauldron. But even at Brimfield, you still have to consider that a lot of the vendors jack those prices up, especially the cast iron vendors. For instance, this BSNR Red Mountain number 5, I believe I paid $5 for this at a flea market. If you find this on eBay or in an antique mall, they will probably be selling it as a vintage Red Mountain pan, and I would expect there could be a price tag of $25 or so on this. And if that's the case, I would definitely say walk away, because you will almost certainly be able to find it at a better price somewhere else. So, because yes, patience is really what you need more than anything else. I'm starting to smell something. Okay, let's take a look now. Head back down, because you know what? Something's happening. Okay, try not to lose that leg again. Yeah, because look at that. It's starting to brown on top. So yes, we are in fact making progress here. We're definitely starting to get some, I guess you could say, caramelization on top, because I definitely can't call it burning. But it is actually working, and I have to say I can smell it too. In fact, I think I can even see a little bit of cracking there in the front. But nonetheless, it's actually working. Cool. So we are not. So despite the delay tonight, I think we may actually accomplish what we set out to do. I'm actually more surprised than anything that this caramel is taking this long here. I have turned up the heat a little bit, and in fact, you can see that there's more foam there on top. In fact, this has like a sugar coating on it. I'm going to wash this and then dry it as best as I can, because no, you don't want water or anything to get into your sugar, because you don't want it to crystallize. So, let me, there we go, try to dry this as best as I can. Okay, that's better. Now let's see what's happening here. 89, 98, 104, 109, 112, 115, 118, 122, 23, 24, 26. Hey, it's actually working. All I did was turn up the heat a little bit, and it looks like the temperature seems to have jumped a little bit. Or maybe the water may have evaporated, and we may actually starting to be getting into melted sugar territory at this point, because now we have jumped to about 133, 134. And I'm starting to see the temperature going up even as we watch. We're now past 135. Okay, we're finally getting somewhere. Right. This definitely has been a night for delays, but even so, I'm glad to see that we are still making progress here. And let's see what our friends in the chat are saying now. All right. Yeah, the cheesecake. The cheesecake is definitely doing good, and I am certainly looking forward to it. And I can certainly smell it too. The syrup will slowly rise and climb like a homesick angel. Oh yeah, you must be an expert at candy making, Val. I think. Then I can only hope I'm doing this well. Any reference to the name Lady Bess Truman? You might be right. I actually don't know enough about the history of BSNR to know why they named it as Lady Bess. But that really sounds like it may not be an unquestionable reason. Although consider as well, they made this for the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So I can't think of anybody from the original founding fathers who had a wife or anyone named Bess. So I'm still stumped as Lady Bess, and you might be right perhaps about it being Bess Truman, perhaps. I think baking cheesecake and homemade bread are some of the best scents a house could have. Well, that and apple pie. I made an apple pie last week, and boy, I'm really happy with how that turned out. And that's why, as I said, I was thinking of doing a full apple pie on this live channel tonight, but I decided against it because I want to take my time and film a long form edited video of that. Because that apple pie I made last week, I was very satisfied with how it turned out, and I really want to do a better video of that, in fact. Because what I did last week, if you saw the short form video, is that I pre-cooked the pie filling. I stir-fried the apples and their spices in the big cast iron wok, and the filling was completely cooked before I added it to the pie shell, and it came out great. The problems with homemade apple pie are you can end up with these huge gaps of empty space underneath the shell. You can end up with apples that are not completely cooked, that they end up being still crunchy, for instance. And worst of all, you can end up with pie filling that is full of liquid instead of that nice, thick, gooey pie filling. When I stir-fried the apples last week, that took care of all of those problems. Because when I stir-fried it until it became nice and thick and gooey, then just poured it all into the shell and then put the cover on top of it. And there were no gaps, and it turned out to be a really, really good apple pie. So I'm definitely recommending that as a way of making an apple pie as well. So candles are a passion of mine. I just need a bigger kitchen. Yes, limited cupboard space. That's all very well familiar. Your temperature gauge can't be right. Well, I hope that's not the case, because this is supposed to be a very reliable temperature. Thermometer. It's a Thermopro, no less. I mean, granted, I can feel that it has a very thin coating right now. Right now, it does appear that we've definitely gone into more of a the amber color that you want to see. I'm not sure it's approaching brown yet. I'm gonna have to wash this off again because, as I said, it's got a coating on it again. And then I'm gonna have to grab another towel and give it a good thorough drying because this thing has to be dry. And let's give this another try. Yeah, I would say this may very well be starting to change color now as well. 106, 115, 122, 27, 33, 38, 44, 48. Oh, this thing is rising like no tomorrow. In fact, I'd say we're getting pretty close here. It suddenly jumped just like that to 160 degrees. So yeah, we are definitely making progress here. In fact, I'm even seeing a very, very thin string of sugar like a spider web here. So I'm turning the temperature back down. I'd say we're probably getting to that point here. So thank you for your advice on that as well. Yeah, this is definitely getting more towards the brown color. We are most likely at the point where exactly as you say, which means I had better quickly heat up this in the microwave, that cream that is. I don't want it to get to boiling, but I definitely want to heat up this cream a little bit. So let me heat this in the microwave for about a minute. By that time, it should probably be ready. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm also gonna peek on the cheesecake here. Oh yeah, look at this, folks. We're getting close, definitely. Look at that. I do believe we may very well be getting close to done at this point. I think I can risk it, and I could probably keep it in the oven for maybe a few more minutes, because we are at just about 55 minutes or so, I would say. So yeah, in fact, I had better start clearing off my workspace. My bad. So that I can get that thing out of the oven. Maybe this, and that, and the other thing. Because when this thing comes out of the oven, I'm definitely going to want to take a couple of pictures. There we go. All right. And with that, okay. Yeah, I've turned off the heat as well, which means, okay, there we go. Yeah, that's good. This is definitely not a cold, there we go. It's definitely not a cold cream now. Yeah, no pun intended. But nonetheless, I'd say we're probably at the point here. In fact, I'm thinking I should probably get that out of the oven just to be safe. Yeah, 4 let me have a cup of real sugar. Take the pan off the hot burner. Okay, I will move this over here, like you suggest. Thank you for that suggestion. But if we look at this point, let's take one more look at the cheesecake. I'm thinking I would probably say I think we're at the point where it's probably done because I don't want to risk it, and it does look nice and caramelized. So that means it's time to move the camera over and get the picture everybody has been waiting for. So thank you everybody for your patience here once again, because we are just about at that time, which means better bring out my gloves. I always have such a mess when I do these things. Okay, and at last. Oh yeah, haha. And it's all jiggly, which it's supposed to be, which means I've got to be careful. Ooh, holy cow, this is hot. Ouch, turn this off. Okay, this is hot. I can feel that even through my gloves. So I definitely have to be careful here. And at last. You know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if I could put it back into the oven for another few minutes yet. What do you think, folks? Do you think we're done, or maybe just another few minutes? I'm actually thinking it may not be burned enough. So let's, good thing I did not turn off the oven. And yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to actually put this back in for maybe about another 5 minutes. I mean, this looks nice, but I think I could actually burn it a little more. So away we go. Back into the oven. Well, yes, and good night, Papa Dan, and I apologize for the delay tonight, which is the reason why, nonetheless, we haven't done too badly here. Okay. There we go, which means while we're waiting, we can get back to here and finally work on our caramel. Time to dig out another spatula. And now comes the dangerous part, which is that time to add the cream. There we go. Whoa. Like I said, I don't want to get a steam burn. But yeah, melted sugar is quite dangerous. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Which, as I've said, is another reason why I'm actually quite glad to have this BS&R saucepan. I also have a 2-quart saucepan that I haven't had a chance to display yet. This thing is still bubbling up. Just gotta be patient. Patience, young Jedi, patience. Yeah, compared to Yoda, I am young. And 900 years old, you reach look this good, you will not. All right. And keep on going. There. Phew. There we go. This is definitely becoming a caramel sauce. Still very thin yet, though. I mean, obviously, you just have to wait for this to thicken, but that will happen. Notice the bubbles have disappeared. Yes, indeed. As I said, patience is very important. But now that we've done that, let's take another look here. Let's say we are almost at that point. So far, so good. Maybe about another minute, perhaps, because I think I am indeed starting to see blackened bits on the front of that. So, maybe like a beer. Okay, do they have any Younglings flavored Kool-Aid? Shit. The saucepan looks different. Well, as I mentioned, yeah, no, the saucepan is not shaped the same as a BSNR skillet. It has this unusual handle shape. Similar, but not quite the same as those Taiwan handled saucepans. There we go. Oh, yeah, it is just beginning to congeal at this point. So I would say we are definitely getting into some, we're going to be having some caramel once this thing cools off. But I do believe we've got it. And as well, now that I've waited a little bit, I think now it's finally time to bring it out once and for all. So let's move back over one last time. Pull this out. Yeah, I do think it's a little better. Okay, let's do this fast before I burn my hand through this glove. And there we go. Turn off the oven. But there's the result. And thank you for your patience as we went through this, folks. But look at how it's pulling away from the side. It actually has built up a crust. In fact, I better not pull at it too much. Now, this is actually going to collapse. It is, I mean, it is not going to stay this puffed up. That is the other thing about this recipe. It is indeed going to fall, and that is completely intentional. So here is the result, nonetheless, of our burned Basque cheesecake. I had better get a picture or two of this before it starts to fall, because this is definitely an interesting little shot, which means I better pull out my camera. Turn this around. Yeah, because this would make a nice cover photo for this video. In fact, better than the cracked cheesecake that's on the cover photo right now. There we go. Okay, but yeah, take a look. We definitely have a caramelized top, and yes, as you can see, because of all those cracks, it is definitely not burned on the inside. So all we need to do now is let this thing cool, and like I said, it will collapse, and then it will go into the oven, and then we get to see what Papa Dan said about cast iron rusting. So I am definitely going to have to put a, yeah, I'm going to have to post an update for this probably by tomorrow morning so that we can see what this cheesecake looks like. Still, it's quite interesting. Whew. And I hope you folks don't mind the way I dragged everybody along tonight. I quite frankly enjoyed myself, and thank you very much for asking questions as well about the BSNR series. There's always more to talk about with that, and we will certainly be able to continue this another time as well. But yeah, there we go. We managed to get through, and well, despite the initial chaos, pretty much as usual, we have cheesecake. And by tomorrow morning, we will see what it looks like. So, oh, nice. Nice thing about when a cheesecake cracks is that you know it was baked and homemade. Well, there is that. But as I said, these cracks are intentional. So this is really nothing to feel bad about. This is how it's supposed to turn out, especially since again this was made without without a crust. And even despite that, you can see it's actually pulling away from the parchment paper, so it actually has built its own crust. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying this tomorrow and seeing how it all turns out. And I can only thank everybody for being patient enough to watch all this as we went through and made our cheesecake tonight. Cheesecake and caramel. And yeah, the main reason I made this caramel is to have it as a sauce for the cheesecake. And I would say as well that when this cools off, that will certainly be the case. So I'm going to put the caramel into one of my Pyrex bowls and put that in the fridge as well to cool off. And with that, I guess all we can do is say to be continued. Again, I will follow up on this tomorrow morning, and we will, of course, follow up all of this next week. So I can only thank everybody once again for being kind enough to show up here tonight. That we still have 67 people here watching, even after all this time, and even running late. I very much appreciate everybody who's been kind enough to stay here. How does it smell? The aroma. Oh man. Well, as a matter of fact, you know what? It does have a different smell than your typical cheesecake because of the caramelization. You can smell that. You can definitely smell that. But there is definitely a cheesy aroma to it as well. I'm doing a very poor job describing this, but this is not your typical Cheesecake Factory cheesecake. This is definitely something different. And it's precisely for that reason that I'm looking forward to giving this a try. So, impressive outcomes. Well, I certainly hope so. Looking forward to seeing the final results. And yes, I'm definitely looking forward to it as well, Clico. And handsome stone. If you could wait a few days, I could mail you some raspberry preserves. But I wouldn't be able to wait at all. And I certainly don't blame you there. Jacked up Louis mac and cheese after the show. Jacked up. Thank you. Well, thank you as well, Val's Black Cats Rules, and thank you as well, Rick Stumbaugh. Thank you everybody as well for being kind enough to stay and watch this show tonight. Where, as I said, we as always we played with cast iron, and I am very pleased as well to have tried something different in that I was going to make an apple pie but decided to do this instead, and I for one am not regretting it. So I guess the only thing I can say there is don't be afraid to try something different. Thank you everybody very much for as I said, for being kind to watch tonight. We will be doing this again next week, where I've got a celebration video special for next week. Another celebration, because a couple of weeks ago was the 50,000 member celebration for this channel, and thank you everybody for that. In fact, we're already at almost 51,000 members. A couple of those short videos that I posted seem to have suddenly taken on a life of their own, and they're getting a lot of views. And thank you very much to everybody for that, and I can only hope you enjoy them. But yes, as I mentioned, there's a new celebration next week, and it's kind of personal because next Tuesday, August 15th, is the 1-year anniversary of when I became a homeowner. when I actually signed, I signed the deal with the devil, took on a mortgage, and as a result, I now own this home that I've been living in for the past year. It's been 1 year, 14 years to go. Maybe less, depending on how these payments turn out. But nonetheless, yeah, so I definitely want to feel like celebrating, which also means, of course, I'm going to have to celebrate a year of having a gas stove. So that probably means next week I'm going to have to do a nice good stir fry and see how that turns out. So thank you everybody for being kind enough to stay to watch and to keep coming back, and thank you to Rick Stumbow and Pipgorn and Handsome Stone, Val's Black Cats Rules, and Jerry 1952 and Cynthia Wesley, and thank you to everybody who's been kind enough to show up for the first time, and I hope to see you again. And as I said, we'll be doing this all next Wednesday. So thank you very much for watching, and well, yeah. I always end this with a quote from 2001 because that is my favorite movie, as I mentioned. So, yeah, so to everybody, see you next Wednesday.